to write an A term paper in 10 hours or less. Part 1, an insider's tips on writing your term paper in record time. If you are like most students, you're working, going to school at the same time, have a boyfriend, girlfriend, or significant other, and a million other things going on in your life, from car breakdowns to just trying to make the next rent payment. And in a lot of cases, trying to raise kids to boot. On average, it's probably about 10 hours before your term paper is due. And you are on the internet looking up, hey, how do I write a good term paper? The only problem is that most of the URLs you visit recommend that you plan your paper well in advance of its due date, and you haven't had any time to do any planning with everything else going on in your life. Okay, at this point, advanced planning just went right out the window. Now what do you do? Well, today I'm going to show you how to do the job of writing a good research paper in record time. A few dedicated hours in front of your computer to meet your professor's deadline in a way that they will be happy and possibly very happy. Today, I'm going to share some of my inside secrets with you on how you can radically reduce the stress of writing a term paper. You see, I too was a former college student who used to have to write a lot of papers at the last minute all the way through my college journey. I've actually been a professor who taught at the university level, where I graded hundreds of student papers, giving out grades ranging from A's all the way to F's. But today I'm going to spill the beans and tell you the secret of how easy it can be to write a high-quality term paper at the collegiate level. There are lots of tools out there to help you do research for your paper, like Google, Google Scholar, Google Fact, and so many others already on the internet as search engines. But there's also your library, the most important place you can go to get the best materials available to help you write an A term paper. Now, as far as search engines go, they are all great for gathering raw data, and we encourage you to use them. The more the merrier, as the old saying goes. But just be careful of normal search engines, because they don't tell you the credibility of the sources of information you are looking at. That's why I, as a research scientist, turned to a simple-to-use but highly advanced research tool that helps me radically speed up the research, learning, and good writing process by giving me only credible sources upon which I can build highly communicative, fact-laden, and content-rich papers. It's called authentication, and it's very simple to use once you get the hang of it. You can learn much more about authentication at this URL. Now, back to writing a high-quality academic research paper for your professor. There are 10 easy-to-understand and straightforward steps in the process. Step 1, you go online and get a copy of your course syllabus and read it. This document sets forth the learning objectives of the course you are taking, your assigned reading list, and it lays out what you are expected to know by the time you finish the course. Go online again in step 2 and look up your professor's biography and try to find some examples of papers that she may have written and research areas of particular interest to them. Review the papers to study your professor's preferred thinking and writing style. Third step, start thinking about a topic or topics that relate to one or more of the learning objectives your professor has set out in their course syllabus. Step 4, go to authentication and just type in a few proposed topics relating to one or more of the learning objectives in your course syllabus to see what's generally out there in terms of credible, high quality information you might be able to use to support the topics of interest that you are thinking you may want to write about. Picking a good topic is another critical step in writing a good paper for your professor. As a professor, I usually made my students select their own topics. It's a lot tougher than you may think at first. On other occasions, though, I asked them to write a paper about a specific topic that I assigned to test their research and critical thinking skills in one particular area. In either case, authentication can really help speed up the process to give you a great result. Step 5. As you go to the sites with the highest credibility rankings brought to you by authentication, be sure to drive down a bit on the references at the various sites themselves to find other good references. Frequently, these references can provide even better and more specific information than the original URL. It's kind of like treasure hunting. Spend some time just picking around and scanning good sources of information. Step 6. But also be sure to take a look at some of the negative sentiment URLs listed by authentication to see what other experts are saying that express another point of view that perhaps you haven't already thought about. Step 7. Now it's time to get serious and select your topic and finalize what's called a hypothesis. From my experience, most undergraduate and graduate students choose a positive or negative variation of what is called a hypothesis. That is, something is true or something is not true. Now's the time to take a deep breath and pick a topic that falls within your course syllabus and learning objectives that you are interested in writing about. As always, consider your research review. In most cases, time-smart students will choose a topic based on the largest number and most credible URLs relating to it, as provided to you by authentication, along with their own independent reading of course books and materials and other independent research. Always remember to use and reference your mandatory course readings in your paper. Now that you have selected your topic and that you know has plenty of credible research supporting it, it's time to move on and prepare a general outline for your paper. Most undergraduate and graduate student papers use a simple hourglass model with an introduction that states the hypothesis and describes what you are going to write about, a brief overview of the context of the topic, and your research methods. The introduction is followed by a body which sets forth a series of paragraphs, sometimes using a series of main and subheaders that are used to guide your reader through the genuine issues of fact that you have found that best support your arguments for or against your hypothesis. But always remember, the quality of your product depends on finding and using only the best footnotable sources and doing some what we call drive down to find additional credible sources. This is why it is so important to consider authentication credibility scores to help you determine the validity of what others are saying or saying that they are doing. What people say is not always true, and it's your job as a student, as a critical thinker, to ferret them out and expose them. Now, the difference between a ho-hum term paper and an A paper often comes down to the very simple question of, So what? In academia, it's all about the frosting on the intellectual cake, so to speak. And that's the generation of new knowledge or insights on what you have studied and researched. These insights should be strategically placed after you have reported what others have concluded throughout the body of your paper. What can you add that no one else has said or already described? Finally, there's the conclusion that concisely summarizes the facts you have presented to support a conclusion that your hypothesis is either true or false. By now, I'm sure that you've gotten the idea. Pulling together a good outline is the most important part of writing a decent term paper. By this point in the process, you already have a fresh idea in your mind about what the course learning objectives are, some of the research topics that you interest your professor and his or her writing style, an idea about a topic that has credible research to support it, and a general starter outline of the main topics you want to discuss in your paper, and some good facts to support each of your arguments. The next step is to fill out your general outline using the highest scoring authentication URLs and other reliable and valid facts. Remember, the higher credibility score for any given URL means that it's most likely a good footnotable source. Begin to paraphrase in sentence and paragraph form the concepts, ideas contained in each of the URLs. Be sure to footnote the reference source in proper format using the authentication tool and add any new insights you have found that can add to the existing body of knowledge about the topic of your paper. Continue to fill out the rest of your outline by organizing your results around the specific arguments you are going to make to support or debunk your hypothesis using headers and subheaders. Remember that headers and subheaders can be a very effective way to guide your readers through the genuine issues of fact that you have found. In the next section, we're going to talk through how you might use authentication as a research and writing tool to go through a real-world example of a term paper. We have titled our research paper, Have the Works of William Shakespeare Had a Continuing Influence on the English Language? Thank you. We'll see you the next time.